Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to Football Inc. for episode 5 of the latest and greatest in the fledgling channels around the YouTube space. I'm here with Johnny H3232 from Twitter fame and from Spurs Talk Show fame. That's where you can also find me. I hope you guys are all doing happy and healthy. Johnny, how are you, my man?
All good, all good. Lots of transfer news, people fiddling around, trying to get some stuff. It hasn't really cooked yet, but there's lots of talk, as always. But we need to start seeing some action. City are the only team really that are cooking right now, and boy, are they cooking.
They are,
mate.
They are.
They mean business second half of this season. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't know whether or not we spoke about this on a previous video, the intentions around their transfer spend. Why is it? Is it getting in front of something, or is it because they're on the back end of something? But either way, you can't argue with the investment. You can't argue with the intent. And they look like they're going to be a force for the future if there's nothing else going on in the background. Johnny, we have got some names for us to talk through today.
Just to say, Shorty, just to add to that, to people who are going on about the spend, they did sell Alvarez to Atletico Madrid for over 80 million pounds. So, they have got money to play with. So for those questioning, asking where the money's come from, they haven't spent it all. They have got players, and they sold. They've sold players. Don't worry about them. They got quality.
Yeah, they always. I mean, they're happy to get rid of players. I think they sold a few people at the end of last season. I think Sterling went as well. There's a load of players that from
Palmer's gone.
Cole Palmer as well. Listen, in terms of if the only question mark around Manchester City is not whether they can spend the money, it's whether the money that they are spending is going to be sort of retrospectively going to kick them in the teeth because of legal issues. But in terms of if there's no legal issues, and we don't know about that yet, but if there isn't, then they have the biggest wiggle room of anybody in terms of FFP. So no issues there. But Johnny, today we've got a lot of some interesting names, some names we've spoken about before, but some names that are new on the list. We're going to start with Nottingham Forest, mate, because they've got a couple of interesting names here. And this is a club that are doing wonderful things for the second season in the Premier League. Last season was obviously a foundation, like a cornerstone for them to cement themselves back up at the top flight. And they have really kicked on under Nuno. They've also got an owner. I always get asked about, ownership, who's the best version of an owner. And not many people talk about the Greek shipping tycoon that currently takes the hot seat over at Forest. But this is a guy that is part of a multi-club ownership model. And yet he has a happy fan base in every corner every single one, from Portugal to Greece and everywhere in between. They all seem to love this guy, and he doesn't seem to have any problem spending money when there's the opportunity to do so, and when the intention to kick on is there. And with Forest, it's a really, really interesting story, and they've got a couple of good names here that they're looking at. One of them, the first one, Brentford's Wissa. What do you think about this one, mate?
Yeah, listen, look, he's done fantastic for Brentford. He's playing out on the wings, or he's playing up front with Mbuemo. 28-year-old right-footed Congolese player. I'm trying to think, I think he's 11 goals and 2 or 3 assists this season. He's a threat. I know Arsenal were looking at him earlier on, I think at the end of the beginning of this season, as a potential deal. But, Forest know a player. When you look at the players that they bought in, everyone thought they were going Chelsea scattergun approach, and they didn't quite get it right the first attempt.
That's right.
Second attempt, they've absolutely smashed it. We won't go through them all now, as be for another show, but we go.
Well, they have also just secured the. I think the biggest fear in a lot of Nottingham Forest minds, Forest fans' minds, wasn't necessarily who they're bringing in, but who they might have to lose as a consequence of still being considered, one of the sort of second-tier teams in that centre back. Murillo, is it? Yeah, who's been absolutely fantastic, and they've just signed a new contract with the player for another 5 years. So he's one to keep an eye on as well for a future.
So many good players in that Forest team. Aina, Murillo. The boy next to him, who Spurs were looking at him,
Gibbs White, Milinkovic as well. Yeah.
So, they know the talent, and Wissa is a little bit older, but he fits in. I mean, look at Wood. No one expected Chris Wood to come in and have such a storming season this season. So their talent ID is very good, and Wissa coming in around about 28 million, is good value. The question is, will Brentford let him go. Personally, I don't think they will at this stage of the season. They got a lot of injuries themselves. So
yeah, they have.
See it. But I think if they push the prices up, they'll have a go. The other one they're looking at, which I don't think personally they're going to be in the market for, because I think this player is going to end up, going to Arsenal if he's going anywhere, and that's Matheus Cunha. What an unbelievable player. He's one of my favourite players in the Premier League, only 25 years of age. This guy has played just about everywhere. He's played 6 different positions for Wolves this season. 78 goals, 78 games, 26 goals, 13 assists for Wolves. And this season, believe it or not, most of his goals have been scored as attacking midfielder. I think 7 goals, 3 assists. Whereas most people seem to think of him as a sort of a centre forward. And funny enough, it's the only position that he has played for Wolves where he hasn't scored. His ability to drift all over the pitch,
sensational.
He's just a joy to watch. A true Brazilian,
and a nightmare to defend against, right?
Yeah, because he drops so deep, and his ability to ping a ball, his control, his ability to ride the tackle, and his finishing and his delivery from out wide. I would actually be seriously worried. I mean, as a Spurs fan, and as you are, I'd be seriously worried if he went to Arsenal, because I think it's an absolutely fantastic acquisition. Again, will they allow him to go? They sit 17th in the league, Sean. Can you see them letting him go?
For the right price, of course, 100% you can. Yeah, of course, Wolves would let him go. They are a club that has to balance the books with sales. So obviously, it's bad timing. Obviously, the cost of relegation is not going to be necessarily that appetizing, just in order to get the money in for the Cunha deal. But I think at the right price, you do have to let him go. And Wolves are no strangers to having a conveyor belt of talent coming through Portugal, with the next stars coming through. So it won't be their first rodeo with regards losing a top player. In terms of Arsenal as a good fit, though, Johnny, because of the fact that he can play everywhere, it's one of those things where he's a bit of a square peg for any kind of shape hole that you can possibly fathom up. And I don't know if he is exactly what Arsenal needs. Like, you look at the talent that Arsenal have, absent the injury to Saka, which obviously is meaningful, but are you really going to drop £70 million on a player just to come in now to play, first choice in his absence if you want to put him on the right-hand side, and then when Saka comes back, you're not going to drop him because he's Bukayo Saka. On the left-hand side, you've already got Martinelli. You've got the young fella and Wanyi, or whatever his name is, who's kicking goals and coming up strong. I think that Arsenal need one thing and one thing only, and that is a brutal 20-goal a season, traditional old-school striker, a player that we're going to come to in a second in Dusan Vlahovic. But I love the player. I absolutely love Cunha. I do. And maybe it's because of his versatility that it puts me off the Arsenal move a little bit. I sit there and think, because he's so versatile, whereas Arsenal need one thing to make them go to that next level, and they haven't found it, I would just be surprised if they were to drop 70-odd million on a player that can do a very good job in everything, but isn't necessarily the kind of the top tier target man striker that can finish everyone else's dinner for them.
Do you not think it's ironic, though, that Arsenal, who are desperate for a centre forward, are chasing a player whose only non-goal return is that as a centre forward? I just think
exactly.
I do think that this guy has got so much talent. Remember, he's still only 25 years of age. Yeah. He's got an XG of 4.64. He is a nightmare. He's a nightmare. I just think if you sat him in that team,
where would you play him if you're Arteta?
I would actually play him as a false 9, almost, to be honest. Because
they got that in Kai Havertz? Haven't they got that in a few? But I mean, you just need someone that you know exactly what you're going to get from him. You know exactly where he fits in the team. There's no question marks. There's no, should we put you out here today? Should we put you over there? Like, just go and get, because Arsenal, whilst they're not financially at risk of any kind of problems necessarily, they were at the top. They were at the top end of the club's list that were considered to be a risk. And so they probably, what you can infer from that is that they might have enough money to spend on one player, a big player, but they can't do it again if they get it wrong. And so to me, I just think that whilst he's a fantastic player, is he what they need entirely? And I'd say no.
The problem that they have is that they can't do any more loans. They've got two players out on loan at the moment. So what they would have to do is secure either Neto or Raheem Sterling on a permanent to then free up a potential loan with the obligation at the end of the season if they wanted to do it alone, if they were trying to keep within the FFP. So that's something to bear in mind. They completely fulfilled their loan for the season.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's a difficult time to do business. It's an expensive time to do business. And when you have little things in the background that also make your choices difficult. And look, we happen to support a team that has a manager that loves versatility. I would just make the argument that specificity is what Arsenal need. And I'm not sure, despite his talents, that he is the right choice. But listen, I think he's a brilliant player and he'll be a success wherever he goes. Do I think he'll leave Wolves? If not this summer, this winter, certainly in the summer for sure. Yeah. And let's move on, mate, because as usual, we had 9 names to talk about. We're 2 names in, and we've already been going for 11 minutes.
Okay. Let's go. Hikaru Tomori.
Tomori to Tottenham. Yeah. Any updates there for us?
Well, listen, look, I've always liked him even before. When he was at Chelsea. He went to AC Milan for 35 million euros. I think he hasn't had a bad career there. He had a bit of a bad injury. I think he's what Spurs need. Experience, former England international. I think he's only played about 5 or 6 games, granted, but he's strong, he's powerful, quick.
Reminds me of Mark Gahey at Crystal Palace.
Well, I think he's come through at Chelsea. He's got a good background, and I just think that Spurs need someone with experience, and if you can survive in Serie A for this length of time, I think he's definitely a player that would suit Spurs. I think he's played in 5 Champions League games this season, and I think 17 games all told. Yep. So he's getting minutes. I think his average is about 70 minutes a game. Across all appearances. So I think
he's got a tough job. He's got a tough job getting into that team, though. They've got some really, really good players, Milan, in the back line there. Players that can play left back, that can also fit in as a centre back. They've got 2 or 3 that are just competing for the centre back spot. There's no shame in him leaving as a surplus to requirements, but wants more out of a Milan team. And look, he does have Premier League experience, right? And I don't think he doesn't like. If you're planning for a Postecoglou salvage system or salvage operation, but you've also got one eye on a probable future that's not far away, then you need to make sure that the player's characteristics have enough to suit this system, but also is adaptable for a future one that maybe is a little bit dialed back. And I think that Tomori's a really good player. I'd have absolutely no concerns with looking at the profile and thinking that he would struggle in Postecoglou. But at the same time would be very competent in the next model as well.
I mean, he's quick. The only question here is what Spurs really need, and I'm sure most Spurs fans would agree, would be a left-sided centre-back, a left-back, rather than Tomori, who, is a centre-back and possible right-back. So, whilst he would add to depth of the squad, which is what we need, a centre-back, we really need a left-sided player. So let's move on.
Marcus Rashford, next one up. I mean, we've spoken about these, him and the next player a few times, so we won't dwell on it too long. But Rashford to Barcelona, is there any update here, mate, or is it just more intention? Barcelona seriously want him, right?
No, I think Marcus Rashford's representatives have met with Barcelona in Lisbon and on Tuesday, and they said that Rashford's preferred choice is Barcelona. The issue they have is, how creative can Barcelona get? In fact, Barcelona's sporting director, I'll just read this out to you, said, we are dealing with the issue of financial fair play in the final days. If the team can be strengthened, we will try. But as of today, there is nothing. The priority is the renewals of the important players in the squad, and then we could focus on one of the 2 reinforcements that we really need. But it's not something that the coach has asked for from us. We're fully focused on new contracts right now. Then we can bring in the reinforcements. We certainly will. Listen, look, he wants to go there. We all know how creative they've had to get to pay the wages for
sure.
two players, Danny Olmo.
It can't happen, Johnny. Surely,
I can't see how.
No
I
chance.
can't see how, but they are trying to get rid of Ansu Fati.
Yep.
They're trying to get rid of another Garcia, is it?
Vita Roque as well. Vita Roque might also be making that deal permanent, but they'll structure that so that they get some sort of wiggle room on the FFP or whatever now, but it will be for in 18 months' time or something. But yeah, I just it's one thing to sit there and acknowledge that Barcelona have always got a get out of jail free card with regards to the way that they can move things around on the paper profits, but having just come up against such massive limitations and then found a ridiculous loophole to be able to get themselves to in a position where they could finally list Danny Olmo on their squad list. I don't really foresee the ability for them to be able to take a Marcus Rashford on loan, even if they were paying only 50% of the wages. It's still a massive financial outlay because of Rashford's contract. So I just don't see it. As much as Rashford might want to go there, I think that Barcelona don't necessarily need that additional financial headache.
Well, the other one, which United are trying to negotiate here, is Garnacho to Napoli. I mean, this is a deal which Napoli want to do, and United probably reluctantly wanting to do because the players still offering plenty towards the team. Is the fact that under PSR FFP rules, a homegrown sale is going to be very beneficial to them in the long run, and the talks are now that they're willing to drop the price on Garnacho down to around about 40. I think it's 46 million euros. So I think they're
still a lot of money. It's still a lot of money, isn't it, for a player?
He's a young kid. Listen, look, he's a young kid, right?
Talented, but
a lot of talent. Of talent. Questions about his attitude. Too much too soon.
Not just that. How do you sort of, as a working comparable, how old is Garnacho?
I think he's about 20, 21, 22.
If he's that, right? I thought he was younger than that. Right?
So younger than that.
If he was English, how much would he be because of the English tax thing? 65 million?
Yeah, at least probably.
Yeah, he's a good player, but I don't think, for the reasons you just touched on and we spoke about previously, I'm just not sure he's that good. And I don't think that he's going to be the guy that's going to light up or appetize, satiate the needs of Napoli fans to replace Kvich, right? So surely there's elsewhere they could look towards to find someone who's got a look. I'm not hating on the player. I just don't think he's necessarily the replacement, and the valuation metrics don't seem to make sense to me.
Well, they want that, United want 60 million euros, and they're up at around about 45 million euros. Look, the thing is, he's a good player. Look, Conte knows, and if Conte's asking for him, they've sold the player. They're trying to bring someone in like-minded who can attack. And listen, if you think you're going to try any of that crap with Conte, right, Garnacho's in for a rude awakening because he'll kick.
Does Conte play the back three, like the same system as he played at Tottenham at Napoli?
I think it's slightly different, but listen, look, the thing is, it's working. It's working.
He's doing well.
Everyone who leaves Spurs goes on to be success. Nuno's Mourinho's right up there. Conte's leading the league.
That's why it's the greatest draw. If people say, why would Tottenham come? Why would a player come to Tottenham? It's because you're guaranteed a trophy, just not at Tottenham.
As soon as you leave, even Emerson Royal.
Emerson Royal's the latest on the list.
Trophy there for AC Milan the other week.
Unbelievable.
The others, who have we got now?
Let's move forward. Jonathan David still on the list. Another name apparently still linked. And last night against Liverpool for Lille, he didn't let himself down. Johnny.
No, listen, look, the guy just keeps scoring. He's a goal machine. I think he's one of the third top goal scorer in Europe. Look, he's
in the top 15 players every year for goals or GA. He's just a machine when it comes to consistent output.
It's really weird how no one's really come in for him.
But I think he's upped his game, mate. Like the reason why he's changed his game. He's upped his game. I think he's very good at a certain level, and then. But people had problems, myself included, and I think yourself included, had issues with the all-round effort that he was putting in. You know, like a Haaland is very good at finishing someone else's dinner, but doesn't necessarily bring things in. I'm not comparing the two, but just as a way to give you like some insight into how I feel about him. Before now, he was a different player to Haaland, but someone that had lots of areas within his game that needed work. And I think that in the last 18 months, he's really kicked on and worked harder, both literally in terms of his off-the-ball work on the pitch, but also just his confidence. I think he now believes that he's at the right level. He's at the best level, and that level is good for him. And I think that is being demonstrated week in, week out in his football. And I think it's about time that he moves to a bigger league and a bigger team.
I mean, look, the fact for me that I really like about him, he's two-footed. And always a nightmare when an attacker is running at you at pace, and you can't force him onto his wrong foot, right? So you're always gonna be up against it. You're always going to be guessing, and for me, that's a huge threat, which is probably why he scored so many goals and keeps on doing it. I remember when Harry Kane came, he's a one-season wonder. Yeah, well, Jonathan David. Try doing it second year. Try doing it the third year. He's still only 25 years of age. He's not even at his peak yet. And I personally think his agents will try to make him sign a deal in the summer where he can get a massive signing on fee, and he'll have all the gold he can eat, and he'll have many, many suitors. Whereas if he jumps now, he's going to have less money. The other player that back to Man United actually again. And Spurs and other suitors. Apparently, I don't know if Juventus as well are interested. As well.
Of course they are.
Everyone. Patrick Dorgu, the Danish boy. I mean, what a player this boy is.
He's sensational, mate. I look at him and I see everything that so many teams could want. He's versatile. He can play with 2 foot. He's left-footed primarily, but if you're playing a system that appreciates an inversion at the top end or at the bottom end, then you can sit him in the wing back spot in either role or at the forward role if you're playing any sort of back three or traditional sort of 4-3-3 model. His take on skills are frightening for someone so young. His output isn't bad, and the fact that he can play as strongly in a position where he's on the right side of a 4-3-3 or the left side of a back four or even a back three with a wing back is a testament to his adaptability. That is such a useful tool for so many managers who want to be able to pivot. And I think that guy's destined for really good things. And at £40 million, it's a little bit punchy for someone who's only been doing it at this level for 6 months. But his talent is undeniable, mate. And I'd love to see him at Tottenham. And I would be really concerned about how good he would be in a Amorim system at Manchester United. I think that one of the problems with Amorim's start at Manchester United is he doesn't have the players to fit that model that he likes to play. But this guy would be absolutely a dream world solution for them, and they would go from here to here just by his inclusion. So I really hope Tottenham get him for Tottenham reasons, but I really hope that United don't get him for Tottenham reasons as well, if that makes sense.
Do you think, having been settled in Italy at Lecce, that the draw of staying within Italy and moving to the old lady up at Juventus would be the preferred choice if somehow they could manipulate their books yet again?
Yeah. I don't know. Look, I've got no idea. I don't even really watch Serie A, to be honest, mate. So I don't really know the ins and outs of how desirable...
You watch Serie A, Sean. You watch it all the time. We're footballing.
There we are. Well, I watch it the least. I watch Dutch football more than I watch Italian football. How about that? And I don't know if the draw is as important as the money, because he's not Italian, right? I think he's actually, isn't he Scandinavian? I think he's like Danish or Swedish or something. Let's have a look. Patrick Dorgu, where's he from?
He's Danish.
He's Danish, is it? There you go. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, maybe look, you could spin the story in a way that he ends up at Tottenham to play alongside his Swedish kind of cousins, if you like, and that we can get the kind of...
Well, Johan Langer being Danish,
yeah, exactly.
That he could put the bacon back. But hopefully, I wouldn't have thought so. Listen, Sean, it's been a great show. Short and sweet.
Last story for you, real quick. Xavi Alonso is apparently the first name on the list. Apparently, Carlo Ancelotti is looking to possibly even vacate the Real Madrid seat a year early, and they've identified, if that scenario does play out, they've identified Alonso as the guy that they want. Any thoughts on that particular story?
Well, listen, I mean, what a job he did at Bayer Leverkusen last season. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible what he'd done. Many people thought he'd go to Liverpool. Liverpool went for Slot. Whether or
Good
not
choice in the end. Yeah,
it was a fantastic choice. It was my number one choice for my club before we got Ange. I think it's a perfect choice. He knows the club. He's got history at the club, and I think the integration would be seamless, and the type of football he plays would be great. Listen, Ancelotti's one of the greats, one of the all-time greats of football management.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
he's getting to the stage now where what more does he need to prove? Doesn't he? He's got nothing more to prove now. Do you need the trust? Right into the sunset with an incredible record. And I think Alonso's an absolutely perfect fit for what's going on there right now.
Yeah,
especially if they signed Trent, and what else is going on there.
Is there an argument though, Johnny? Just quickly before we finish off, is there an argument to say that the hot seat at Real Madrid is hotter than anywhere else? And as good as Alonso has been, he's only been doing the management thing for a few years. Is there any argument to say he's a little bit kind of wet behind the ears on the managerial side of football?
I think he was such a clever player. His football brain was such that I don't think it will be a problem for him. I really don't. When you play for Liverpool, when you play for Real Madrid, and you go into management and you smash it, I think he's a certain type of person, certain type of player, character, mindset, and I think he would be able to deal with that. If you're asking me if someone has come in, hasn't been in the Real Madrid madhouse coming into that, I would say yes, it would probably be a problem. The days of sacking the Real Madrid manager every 5 minutes seems to have gone, and I think stability has,
but the pressure of success hasn't. And I just
no, that's true.
I would look. It's not even like a hill I'm going to die on, but I would just make the argument that I don't know. I would just say I think that there's value in youth for sure, and exuberance and quality. This season, last season, Xabi Alonso obviously won the Bundesliga. This season, it seems to be reverting to type a little bit with Munich a 5-point lead at the moment. I think it's maybe a year or two too early for Alonso, if I'm honest. Like it's the biggest name, it's the biggest managerial hot seat in football. There is nowhere bigger. There's nowhere you can go after that. And if you've only been managing for 5 minutes, even for his own life progression, do you really want the very best that you can ever get as your second job or third job in managerial football? I'm not sure if it's the best thing for either party at this stage. I'm not saying that he's not ready for it. I'm just thinking whether or not, where do you go after that? And for me, I just think he should have something to look forward to.
Bayern have spent heavy after the embarrassment of last season. They've held back. Leverkusen haven't matched that kind of spend, and you expected them to come in and perform that way. So it's no surprise to me to replicate that. They've dominated football for so many years. I don't think that's a fair representation. I think what will be a fairer representation is how is he getting on against Europe's elites with that team, and he's doing okay in Europe in the Champions League. So I will judge it by that more so than the Bundesliga as it currently stands.
Fair enough. And you know what? That's a perfect cliffhanger for us to end on, because in a video that we'll be recording right after this, but you lot will only see maybe a few hours later or maybe even tomorrow morning, we're going to be talking about the predicament that two massive teams of European legacy come off against each other again tonight, and one of them probably will not make it into the knockout stages of the Champions League. But we'll save that for the next video. Johnny, it's been wonderful catching up again. Once again, a half-an-hour video that was supposed to be 10 minutes. It is what we do here at Football Link. If you liked it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe and all that stuff. Johnny, I'll leave you to finish, my man.
So it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.
Bye-bye, guys.